You would yawn right.
Like, bruh, it couldn't have happened 3 seconds before that. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm here
Hey, y'all.
for it.
I'm Taylor. Oh, hey, I'm Taylor.
And I'm Rob.
And this is the Very Much So podcast. Can you believe it? We are already at episode 3.
Moving along. I'm here for it.
Yes. I'm really excited for this episode. I feel like we've been talking about this episode for a little bit. But before we get into all the things, how are you?
Oh, I am. I just feel so good. I'm free.
Really?
I feel like I lost 15 pounds. I didn't, by the way. I probably gained. But I feel like when there's the dawning of a new chapter in your life, and I just feel like I'm like about to start over with a clean slate. And I have so many plans that I've been talking about for months now, and now I can
Yeah.
finally start putting those things to fruition. So I feel very good.
I'm glad to hear that, friend.
Yes. How are you?
Yes. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I think that I do feel like there's been a weight lifted. Um, I feel like I will have more time for the things that I just want to enjoy and the things that I haven't been able to give as much time and attention to, like, Joy Journey Jewelry and finishing some blogging stuff. So I am excited about that. I think another part of me is like also like a little anxious or like off. I don't know. Like it starting to sink in that I'm like really not in school. And I don't know, like I think that whenever I wasn't in school and I was teaching before, I knew that I always planned to go back. But
Yeah.
now, like, I'm like, I'm definitely not going back for a while. Like, it would be a late career thing for me, if I were to go back for another degree. And I'm still kind of like getting used to what that's going to mean for like how my life changes. And while I'm excited about that, I'm also like trying to get comfortable in the unknown. We both just mentioned feeling lighter, feeling like weights have been lifted, we can breathe, we can dive into our creative endeavors. And the
Honey, the
reason
shackles.
that we feel that way is because the shackles have been removed.
Yes, we can dance and praise him. Okay.
Okay? Period. So for anyone listening who is unsure of what the hell we're talking about, your bitches graduate.
Yes, fully. Okay.
Yes, we're done. We have been released. The
I'm
shackles
relieved.
were removed. We can dance, all of that good stuff. So yeah, I think that this is really interesting though, because our last episode, if y'all didn't watch it, go back, listen to it. Episode 2 was
Yes.
focused on when we realized that things weren't the career for us. And we touched a little bit on how grad school played a role in that. But this week, we're moving into like really talking more about how we feel about grad school now that it's kind of, in hindsight, a little bit behind us.
Very
So,
much so. Let's get into it. The question of the day for this episode is: was grad school worth it? Ooh.
I can't wait to hear the people's responses to this one because I know, some of our listeners, some of our friends, some of our family, they've also been in our position. So I'm excited to hear their responses, but I'm really excited to talk to you about it too because I don't know. I feel like normally me and you are like two peas in a pod. We feel very similarly. I don't know. I feel like we might have some differing opinions on this one.
Okay. Let's get into it.
We'll
I'm ready to
see. I
battle.
don't know. Let's see.
I know we talked about this a little bit on our last episode, But I want to first talk about like what made you go in the first place, and do you feel
Oh
like you
yeah.
accomplished that goal?
Wow. Yes. So long story short, I graduated undergrad, was kind of unsure what I wanted to do. I did teach for America, and I always knew that I wanted to go back to grad school. Originally, I was thinking like Masters of Social Work or something in that nature. I knew I wanted to like work with urban education, but I thought I wanted to do social work. So when I was teaching, and I realized, yeah, this isn't the career for me. Episode 2, go listen to it. I started looking at grad programs. I was looking primarily at like joint MBA, MED, or MBA, MSW. Really wanting to like combine business acumen with like my passion for like nonprofit work and you know, social work, things that really are impacting communities. And then I found the program that we ended up in. So yeah, I kind of knew after leaving grad school after leaving undergrad that I would go back to school at some point. I think I needed the time off to make the what I think was the right decision. We'll get into that a little bit more, but yeah, so I was in education and I knew I didn't want to be a lifelong teacher, but I was considering like educational leadership. I was considering like educational consulting, lots of different things. Um, and I realized that I didn't want to have to stay a teacher or stay in a school for another 8 to 10 years in order to have the knowledge and expertise and things that are necessary for people to like pay you to do those things. So I was like, yeah, let
Hmm.
me go back to school. So I think that
Right.
that's a lot of what led me there, as well as just realizing that I was not my best self as a full time classroom educator, and needing to figure out what would work for me. Do I feel like I met those goals? Hmm. In a lot of ways, yes. I think that I learned a lot that is helping me bridge the gap from um, the experiences that I had in undergrad, my teaching knowledge and expertise, and then also like where I'm trying to go in the future. So I do think I for the most part, accomplished those. I think I networked. I think I made some good friends. I think I learned more about how to pursue leadership in organizations and starting your own. So I would say yes overall.
The reason why I went to grad school in the beginning was because I had been working for a year out of undergrad. And at the time, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I knew that I was like getting out of the healthcare space and all facets. And I was working in higher ed at the time, and I was like, maybe I could see
Mhm.
myself going back to HR or working at a university, working my way up the ladder. And so I wanted to stay on campus because I was like, I can go back because I was working there at the time. So I was like, I can go back, get my master's degree, and hopefully get more clarity on what the right path will be, and then that'll lead me into a
Yeah.
job, and I can just work my way up from there. I kind of did that, but the I got a completely different experience out of it, and I
Mhm.
accomplished something on a different level with going to grad school that wasn't really related to classes. It was more
Okay.
like
Yeah.
introspective and more. Um, I found more. I found learned more about myself during the program, and because in the beginning, I came out in the first semester, and I really started thinking about, okay, what do you actually want to do with your career, with your life, and what do you want to get out of this program? And in a way, it created some frustration out of me because I realized that these classes are not what I am actually interested in. But
Oh.
before that, I was like, I was still covering. So I was like, this is the career I've chosen for myself. This is what will work. And not really, this is what I feel I need to do, if that makes sense. Sometimes you get
Mm.
like, your spirit will tell you, like, this is the right decision to make. And I
Yeah.
was ignoring all of that. I
Wow.
wasn't ignoring it because I did it and it worked out the way it was supposed to. But I feel like my mind was having a different plan than my heart was. Um, So in doing this program, I did a got made new friends, did a lot of networking, but I also discovered my actual strengths and my passions that
Yeah.
may not directly lead to HR or lead to corporate, quite honestly, but I've gotten some skills from the program that I can use to catapult me in my next ventures. So in a way, I accomplished my goals, but it was on a completely different path than I expected.
Mm. The people are probably, like getting a little antsy. I want to keep them a little antsy. Let's not completely answer the question yet. Let's talk a little bit about like what were your top two favorite classes that you took in this grad program?
Oh, okay. Hmm. Watch me say none. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, I think first of all, one of my favorite classes was strategy and analytics two. I mean, no,
Two?
strategy and analytics one. I'm sorry, not two. No shade to that professor, but not two at all. Strategy and analytics one. Shout out to Professor Doyle. That class was really the first time where I felt like I was being challenged, but also learning and growing at the same time. Because in my undergrad experience, it was either the class was easy and I got a boom A strong A, or it was challenging and I felt like I was crawling and chasing my way through the semester. But with that
Yeah.
class, it was challenging, but I was accomplishing everything in class, and I was like, "Oh my god, I understand it now." And the
Yeah.
math is mathing,
Oh,
and
period.
right. And those are things the things we learned in that class, like we can take that and use as nuggets for when we want to start our own ventures, like learning about
Sure.
um, budgets for a company and financial statements and strategizing around how to project the success or failure
Mhm.
of business.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those are things
That
I'm
class
like,
is
girl,
also like, I feel like that class is responsible for our friendship in a lot of ways. Because our final project, no, we worked on two projects together in there, huh? Did we? Yes. You, me, and Taekwon did we did the social enterprise. We had to like make up a company. We had to create our unique value proposition. We had to talk about the business strategy, who were our target audiences, what were we going to charge. We had to do heat maps and sensitivity analyses and all of these things. And we
yes,
ended up creating like a subscription book club pop-up shop thing that donated books to it. It was fun. And then you and I ended up doing our final project together with the
yes,
dashboard. Whew, I'm
yes,
so glad you took on Tableau. But yeah, okay, so that class is near and dear to my heart too.
yes, yes. And my second favorite class was actually not one within the program, but it was one that I took outside uh, in human development counseling,
Okay.
and it was a class called Counseling for College Access. And in that class, I learned a lot about the higher education system and just
Mm-hmm.
how difficult it is for students who don't have access to not only apply for college but to get in and stay there and finish within 4 years.
Yeah.
I really learned a lot about what those roadblocks are and how the system is in place to keep the people who have the money at the top of the food chain, which is like is a very fucked up system, and
Yeah.
it it showed a lot of realities to me, even though I knew a lot of it already, being someone who didn't have a lot of access growing up, and I had to leave and go to New York for 2 years to get into Vanderbilt. We'll probably talk about that on another episode. So I understood that on a certain level, but then for people who had even less access than I did, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, it's damn near impossible.
It's
So
wild. Yeah.
yeah, so that was two
Yeah.
favorite classes.
So I know on our career episode you talked about, like your creative endeavors, you're a chef, you're a foodie, all of that stuff. Do you feel that taking the class that you were just talking about, counseling for college access, is that the name of it?
Yes, yep.
Okay, great. Do you think that that class will play a role in your life professionally in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think for one, it taught me a different a different way of thinking. Because I think before
Yeah.
I would say, oh, you find a problem and you figure out how to solve it. But with that class, it's like you find a problem, but then you first understand the whole system that's at play and
Okay,
figure out.
systems thinking.
Come on, figure
Shout out to
out.
Mark Cannon.
Yes, yes, love him. And you understand the system first, and then
Mhm.
see what is creating this problem, what's sustaining this problem, and what needs to be at play to fix it if it can be fixed.
Mm.
Because sometimes it's so complicated and convoluted where it's like, girl, a solution I can't find her. So, yes. What are your two favorite classes?
Oh gosh. Hmm. Okay, executive coaching has to be
Oh,
up there. So in my current position, I am coaching some fellows who work in schools. So it's more like instructional coaching. But this class with executive coaching, we had to be coached by a classmate. We had to coach a classmate, and then we had to find someone to coach outside of class as well. And I think that it really helped me like focus on the art of listening. It helped me become a better questioner, right? Like asking better questions, more open-ended questions that give people an opportunity to really think and come up with the answers on their own instead of kind of being guided or led.
yeah.
I just honestly, I love the class. Mark Cannon is amazing. I literally I was on the wait list and I didn't think I was going to get in, and I was type emailing people like, Rosie, please get me off the wait list. Mark, like I will not graduate from this program without taking this class. So I was glad that it ended up meeting my expectations. I feel like I learned so much, and I'm like really interested in being an executive coach in the future. So I think that it worked out really well. Let's see, what was my other favorite class? I mean, strategy and analytics too is definitely up there as far as like projects and application, and just being able to like feel like I took so much away from that class that I will use in the future. And Professor Doyle is a whole key. Like
Oh,
she's everything.
okay. I was like, not
Um,
because you said two. I was like, oh,
oh no, 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 no! I really enjoyed. Oh, I meant strategy and analytics one.
period.
Okay, okay, yes. It is up there for me as well. And so I really enjoyed that class. I think I would also have to put like, I didn't thoroughly enjoy taking these courses, but I think that the knowledge and experiences that I gained from program evaluation and consultation skills I will use later down the line.
Girl, we were both working full time during this. Do you recommend people go into grad school and work full time and be a full time student?
So I think one thing to note, everyone's like everyone's situation is going to be a little different. So like for those listening, take what applies to you, leave what doesn't, all of that good stuff. I would say for our program, one thing that was really important, and we struggled at times, I know, because we like had conversations about it, but I think that we would not have been able to make it if our program was not set up for people who are working that didn't always feel like it, with the workload and all of that we got. But all of our classes were in the evenings or on weekends, right? So, like, I think that was kind of conducive. So, I think, if I was remote, right, the first semester. So, I think when you're thinking online, hybrid, programs that work with your schedule, I think that it can be done. Do I recommend doing it? No, like 3 out of 10 recommend. Like, only because this may not be for everybody. I think that it was a lot to balance, right? But I do think that it helped me figure out that I couldn't give more than 100% to everything every week, right?
Mhm.
So like sometimes work had to like take a little bit of a back burner. And as someone who like identifies as being like high achieving, high performing, that was difficult, right? I felt really guilty a lot of the times. And the same thing on the flip side, like this last semester was like really hard, really like for me, like academically, I feel like I was struggling a lot. I feel like this past year, like I feel like I had some of the best times, but I also dealt with some like the deepest depression too. And so like I felt like it was tough. And I felt really guilty at times for not being able to give everything that I wanted to both work and school. So I think, like if you don't have those worries, if you're like, whatever, like I'm here when I'm here, I ain't gotta have the A, it don't matter. Like you can make it work. It can be a great thing, all of the things. But I think that you also like have to have one of them has to be flexible, right? Like your job has to either be flexible around your school schedule, or your program has to be able to be flexible around your job, I think, in order to make it work. But yeah, I struggled a lot with my mental health. I think that I really had to like learn how to work better with time management. So there were some pros to it. Part of me almost wants to say I wouldn't do it again, but I needed that money. So it's tough. Like hindsight being 2020 and all of that. Like I probably still would have did it. I probably still would have worked full time. Now, granted, I didn't work full time the first year.
Oh,
I shot
really?
my shit the first year. Yeah, no. I worked graduate assistantships. I was working like 20 hours a week remotely the first year.
Okay.
So, but I was also like not living in Tennessee, my rent was cheap, like all of these other things, like impacted that. So I didn't feel like I had to. But then when I moved here, I'm living by myself. I have a dog to pay for. Like Nashville is expensive.
Girl.
Like what the hell? Um, so yeah, I think that sometimes you don't have a choice. you know um and another thing is I was working full time in grad school and still taking out loans. So me and Sally got to have a conversation.
I want to jump her. I mean, obviously, talking about having the option to work full time or not during school comes from a place of privilege. So, like that, I
Yeah,
didn't have. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm surely most people would say, no, I don't want to work, be in school at the same time. But for me, there was no option.
yeah.
But like you said, having a program that made it um, that would accommodated that with evening classes, with weekend classes, definitely made it much more manageable. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's like I had the same struggle of trying to figure out because the first year I was trying to figure out how to make everything work, and the reality
Hmm.
is that when you're doing one thing good, something's got to be you got to let something go,
Yeah,
and sometimes it was having to let an assignment go at work during the day to get my reading done for class. Or sometimes it was missing a reading or being late on an assignment because I had late meetings or whatever. And it was just that push and pull of like
yeah.
you prioritize what's important.
Yes, no, I saw something. I cannot remember who it was on social media. So if you're listening and I'm not able to quote you, I'm so sorry. But I saw something that was like what I really mastered was learning how to like ask for extensions and something
Yes.
else. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. But I really felt that like deep down in my spirit. I was like, yes, I learned how to like navigate difficult times because I couldn't give it all to everything.
Would you have um, done it later in life? Like, would you have waited? Looking back now, would you have still done it at that time, or would you have waited a little longer?
I would do it at the exact same time again. I think one, in the sense of like our program is cohort based, and I think that like our cohort really did like heavily impact my experience. So just that like yeah, what's meant to be always happens, all of that, on that side, like, yes, I would continue to, yes, I would do it the same way again. But also, I think that I had worked just long enough to have some like experience and things that I could really apply to the work in the program.
Hmm.
But I'm not sure what I would have done in between teaching and this program that I think would have made this program, in my opinion, as impactful as I think it will end up being and has already been on my life. So
Got
I don't think that I would have waited longer. I think that the program is like, I think that generally speaking, if you have some experience, you have a better chance to like grapple with some of the concepts and things in the context of the working world because you have that working world experience, right? Or experience in leadership. But I would do it at the exact same time. Yeah, I think that I picked the right time for me.
yeah.
Did you pick the right time?
I think I
Would
did.
you
Just for
do?
context for the listeners, we did start the program right in the middle of COVID. We
Yeah.
started in 2020. We everyone was fully remote the first semester, and
Mm-hmm.
well, there was one class for people who were in Nashville. There was a class where we were going in on campus for our weekend class, but we started in the middle of the pandemic. But I agree. That was kind of one of the big reasons why I applied was because I said to myself, look, if you don't do this now, it's probably not going to happen. So you should, while the fire is still ignited in you, you might want to go ahead and,
Yes, fire.
girl, let's get into now. We learned that we did all the things, but girl, credit karma, the financially, I'm asking
Oh,
myself,
I'm known for my finances. No, mm.
I'm asking myself, was this worth it? Because, honey, now I'm not one of the girls that's got like hundreds, thousands of dollars of debt. I'm not gonna say my exact number, but you know how many long says hours and hours. It's giving thousands and thousands for me. So I'm just thinking about journey to paying that off. I'm 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 hopeful that my investment will be worth it, but
Hmm.
time will tell. How is that feel like for
Yes.
you?
Yeah. So I was actually, I think I was telling you a little earlier, like I feel really strongly about like financial transparency in this because I came from a family where we didn't really talk about what we had or didn't have. Now, to to be clear, we didn't have much. It wasn't like we had a lot. I wasn't one of those girlies who was like, "Oh, we're rich," because no, we weren't. Because of that, I've always like now been interested in like actually knowing like, okay, cool. What are people spending on these things? Like, how are people's finances actually working? Because I think keeping that knowledge locked up can. I just let me see. If me being transparent might help somebody else out, then cool. So let's talk about the money. Um, let's see. I did TFA, so because TFA is an AmeriCorps program, I did get a little bit of like a scholarship for the program. So about half of the tuition cost was covered, which was nice. But when you're talking about what, it's maybe 18,000 a semester for tuition, but the total cost per year is what, like 70K for our program. So like you're talking about a $140,000 program for the 2 years. And I did not end up in like, I didn't accrue hundreds of thousands of dollars from this degree, but I had a little bit of debt from undergrad. Not, I wouldn't say it was a significant amount, but then I think I took out about 75, $80,000 in loans from this program.
Mhm.
Something somewhere around there. So I have, a little over like 100K in student loan debt right now. And if anybody is listening, they just whoo, they feel it in their heart. Jesus is putting it on them. You know, I can, my Cash App and stuff will be in the link in the bio. Feel free, you know, if you want to erase that debt for me, just go ahead and
Because I mean,
bless
life
me.
is doing
But
with it.
right, you know, and so I say all of that to say, like, I'm not in a position like some of the people who I know who've gone to law school, who've gone to medical school, right, where they're $300,000, $400,000 in debt, right? I'm not in that place. But
Hmm.
I also don't feel like I can continue to work jobs that are paying, you know, 65, 70K and live the way that I want to live with that type of debt, if that makes sense. So I think that that makes me think about like, okay, I need to be moving into jobs that are hitting and above six figures in order for it to like really at the end of the day feel worth it. But I think that the program has put us in positions to be able to do so, right? Like I think that we are very highly qualified for like consulting positions, for leadership in healthcare and hospitals, and like I do think that we are qualified now for the positions that are going to be hitting those ranges. I think now it's just like, okay, let's see how it goes. You know, like I don't know. We'll come back and talk about it in a few years and see what the debt's like. I think that I'm in a place of privilege from doing an AmeriCorps program and having the education award to rely back on. So I know at least for, you know, the next year, maybe 2 years that I'm out of the program, I won't have to like come out of pocket to make my monthly payments on my student loans. And I know that everybody is not in that position. So I'm glad that I won't have to like think about it too much. But and then that'll give me some time to hopefully save up a little coin, increase this salary,
Right.
and be in a better position to be able to pay it back. Because I don't know, some days I'm like, look, if God don't do it, it won't get done. But as far as this student loan debt is considered,
That's one thing I think about often because I had very little um, out of undergrad. I mean, I really didn't have much really out of undergrad because I went through the Ingram program. So a lot of
mm,
it I just didn't even have to think about until I
yeah,
started applying for grad school. And I was like, well, you're adding on another pile of something to get off your plate once you
yeah,
finish. So are you willing to take that on? Like me using this degree in interviews has helped me make more money. So like it's working. But I'm also
yeah,
in a stage where during the program I realized like, well, girl, corporate is not really where I want to be. So now I'm like, okay, well, how is that going to work with starting a
mm,
potentially, I'll be working for a while, but like my plan at some point is to venture out of that and go into entrepreneurship, go
yeah,
into create my own business, which is a whole nother line of financial burden for a while for
and it takes
entrepreneurs.
money to make money.
Period. So it's like
Yeah,
honestly, sometimes I think about like could I have started this journey sooner within those 2 years? But at the same
mm,
time, my mind wasn't there at that time. So who's to say I would have even thought about this had I not been
yeah,
in the program? So I feel like that there are some things where like it goes beyond academics and beyond money. Sometimes it just goes into who you're around and how it's changing how you
mm,
your life and your
yeah, yeah. And I think that's a really great point. Like LO the program, the cohort, LOP, like the people really did help make this program what I would say was a positive experience for me, right? Like being able to learn from people who were in automotive, manufacturing, sports, who came from so many different areas and industries, so many different backgrounds. I feel like I met so many great people who have access, who now have like widened, I guess, our network. Right, when you think about like second and third degree relationships and things, right? And I think we also like now have a common understanding of how each of us is able to deal with ambiguity and how we work in groups and teams, and so I do think that the program also gave us connections to people who can continue to help propel our careers forward, as well as the alumni, right? Like one of the LOP alums was the reason that I had my internship last semester, last summer. Um, and so I think the program definitely did open doors for new relationships and new connections that I think will end up playing a positive role.
Okay.
So, Rob,
Yes.
Roberto,
Yes, ma'am.
was grad school worth it?
Kind of.
No, you didn't.
Oh,
Okay, I'll take
yeah.
it. I'll take
Yeah,
it.
it was worth it. It was worth it.
Okay.
Taylor.
Oh, me?
Miss. Oh, not be saying government. Oh, not government.
Oh, I don't think my last name nowhere online. I don't have no social medias with my and here he go calling me out to the government.
Girl, we're gonna bleep. We're gonna bleep it. We're gonna bleep it. Was
Yes,
grad school worth it?
I'll say yes. I think that it was. I struggled through it, but I do feel like I came out on the other side with hell of knowledge and experiences and connections that I think really are going to get me to where I want to go. And I think more so, like, grad school helped me figure out what it was that I wanted to do, right? Like all those
Yeah.
projects where we had to sit and think about like business strategies and business plans. And do you want to be an internal consultant? Would you do external consulting? How about coaching? How about, like DEI? Like we just explored so much, and I was able to narrow down so many different career ideas and aspirations and passions that I had from the time that I was in high school, basically, and I think that it helped me feel so much better and like so much more confident in my decision to not pursue the pre-med route and going to, be a doctor. Because I think that for so long I was like searching, like, what is it? What is it that I'm supposed to do? Where am I supposed to be? Um, I like realized in college, like being a doctor wasn't it. And that like disrupted my life. And then I was like, I don't know what it's going to be. I tried teaching for a little bit and I was like, whew, I like facilitating learning. I like helping people learn. I do not like being a K-12 educator. Don't like it. So I think that grad school really helped me find what it is that I would be happy and comfortable and at peace and finding joy doing for the rest of my life. Moving on, no, I'm really grateful for grad school, honestly, truthfully. It brought me you and Taquan and Ariane and Tim and Mackenzie, all these other people who are in our cohort.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Zeke and Ale and
Yes.
Jess and other people. I hope no one Keyshawn. I hope no one's offended if their name didn't get called. But no, I think that I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm glad that I was able to meet the people that I met. And as my Instagram caption says, though, the best part is that it's over.
Girl, done. We did it. It's period. Mm-mm.
We got a couple announcements for the people before we get off of here, huh?
Yes, yes.
All right. So this is episode 3. So next week, that means it'll be episode 4. Yes, check the nails, get into
Yes, get
it.
into it.
But so for our 4th Wednesday each month, tell the people what we'll be bringing them.
So we have decided on adding a segment to the podcast that was actually Taylor's idea. It was sickening. We will have Friends Day is it Friends Day Wednesday or just Friends Day?
Friends Day.
Period. Friends Day.
Yes.
And we will be having a guest on the show to talk about their journey. We'll either have a topic
Mhm.
involved or we will just want to hear about how they got to where they are today. We have curated a great list, a diverse list of
Yes.
men and women, queer or
Yes. We
not
got some
queer,
queer Black creators. We've got some entrepreneurs. We've got some,
poets,
like, yes, lots of things on the list. Lots of people who are in different industries on the list that we're
aspiring
excited to have some
actresses, makeup
conversations with. Right.
artists, all the things.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, and that our first one will start next week.
Period.
Yes. And
We'll have a,
then go ahead.
oh, this is lag for me. I'm so sorry.
Oh, oh.
I was gonna say we will have a post about who the first guest will be for this segment, so we're excited to share.
Yes. So with that being said, in order for you to find out who's going to be the guest, what the topics are going to be, what our little shady tea questions are going to be, you need to go ahead and hit subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, um, YouTube, like, share, comment. And don't forget, y'all, like, we're really trying to build like a community of stories and conversations. So reply, comment, DM us. Tell us your stories on was grad school worth it. If you're interested in financial transparency like I am, feel free to let us know how long it took you to pay off your debt and what your salary was, because the girl is here trying to make it. But yeah, tell us your stories because we really want to hear from you guys and we really want to be able to share them. And we can also do anonymous story time. Just, let us know that you want it to be anonymous and we will keep it so.
And lastly, if there are any topics that you want us to cover, feel free to comment or DM that as well, because we would love to
Yeah,
have some collaboration with what we talk about on this podcast. So,
indeed. Indeed. All
yes.
right, y'all. Well, thank you, Rob, for joining me once again. It is always a pleasure. I have
Always.
loved hearing your experience, and I can't wait to see you again next week.
Yes, same to you. Same to you.
All right.
Bye, y'all. Now, oh, no, my laptop's gonna die. Oh my god, where's my
Ooh.
charger? Oh my god,
Oh, Lord.
you're cold red, cold red. Where's my charger?
Oh, sorry, Zoo.